guys, today I'm gonna do a different video from what I usually do, although I don't really know what I do on this channel anymore. I'm in a different space. Where am I? This is my new flat. My boyfriend and I bought a flat, hence this video. I wanted to share with you some of the tips, advice, things that we've learned on this journey that I think could be helpful to other people, because there's a few things that I wish I would have known to begin with, and things that maybe we would have done differently. So hopefully this can help any of you that are looking to buy a property in the UK. My first tip is to have a mortgage broker, and a lot of them cost money. Something that we learned is that there are some that don't cost money and they're free forever. You don't have to pay them anything. I don't know how they make their money, commissions or something else. London and Country is the ones that we went for in the end. They don't charge you anything and they're quite good. They found us the mortgage that we have now, so they're quite good. My advice, look them up and just give them a call, send them an email, whatever it is, and they'll be able to help you. And we also found them quite easy to talk to and quite friendly. There's a few things in here and I'll say it in a bit, but a lot of the people who would help you through the process are not very, they don't talk to you like you're a person, they talk to you like you're a paper, and they're just using complicated words for no reason. So for London and Country, at least the person that we talked to, he seemed quite nice and understanding of everything and just explained things quite nicely, so there you go. And with that one, I wanted to talk about solicitors. Solicitors are my least favorite people in the world at the minute, aside from estate agents. Both of them awful, don't like them. But solicitors, you're gonna need them. So my advice is, if you know anyone or you know anyone who knows anyone who's a solicitor, use them, because we had so many issues with ours. Basically, because I'm Spanish, I've got two surnames, first surname and second surname. I know it's weird for people, I understand that now, but my solicitors put my name wrong in everything. And I told them so many times, that's not my name, you're doing it wrong. And they kept doing it wrong. And this is what I'm saying, if you know someone who you're gonna be able to talk to like a person, they'll be able to help you, they'll be able to understand you a bit better, and it's just gonna be easier. Also, your estate agents or the estate agent selling the flat or property that you're buying might recommend solicitors. My advice is to go with them, because they'll be able to talk to each other a bit better, they'll know how they do things, and I think it will make the process easier. For us, we went with the solicitors. So, backstory. We were gonna buy a different flat, but then that one we couldn't get for different reasons, so we had to go with another one, which is this one, which it's worked out in the end. We love it a lot more than the original one, but we went with the solicitors that the first estate agents recommended, and because we had already paid fees for them, we didn't want to go with different ones for this flat, so we just went with them, but the estate agents were different, so it just complicated the process a bit more. So my advice is just go with what they recommend, unless it's ridiculous amounts of money, because it might be. And talking about money, your budget, there's a lot of things that go into your final budget that you might not think about in the beginning. So solicitors fees, stamp duty, which I didn't even know what stamp duty was in the beginning. I was like, what is this money? What am I paying? And even now, I don't know what it is. I just know that if you're a first-time buyer, you pay less, but you still pay a lot of money for any property above £300,000, I believe. We ended up paying a few £1,000s extra just for no reason. I don't know where that money goes, but we just had to pay it. So when you're creating your budget for what flat you want, my recommendation is to bring it down. So if you're looking at a property, let's say that's £500,000, just to make it a round number. If you're going for that flat, my recommendation is that you bring your budget down to like 480, or a bit less than what you would have. Basically, if you think you can afford 500, make it 480, because then you're gonna have a lot of fees and a lot of things that you're gonna have to pay extra. And once you've got your offer accepted and everything, it might be a bit more difficult to bring that cost down. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay things on top of everything that are just gonna keep coming, and if you didn't budget that right, you might end up being like, I've got no money, where am I paying this from? This is a lot more difficult than I initially thought. So just my recommendation and my advice is to bring your budget down slightly, few thousand, ideally 10,000 if you can, and that would help you out with the rest of the fees and everything that's gonna come alongside this whole thing. Also, go see your mortgage advisor, financial advisor, whatever they're called, before you actually go see the properties, because what we found is that when you go see a property, the estate agent might say, can you actually afford this place? Have you seen your mortgage advisor? Have they said you can afford this? And if you haven't, then that delays the process. If you really like the flat or the house that you've seen and you want to put an offer straight away or in a couple days, if you haven't seen your financial advisor, then it might delay the process. Someone else might jump in and take the property. So my advice is to go see them first. They'll look at how much money you can borrow based on how much money you have, your deposit, what you earn, and your monthly outgoings. So how much money you spend monthly, and they'll be able to get your affordability, see how much money you can actually spend on your mortgage and whatever it is that you're gonna have to pay monthly. On that one, two things. The first one, don't trust the online mortgage calculators because they're not going to take into account all the stuff, your outgoings and things. I find that they calculate things a lot different than the actual mortgage brokers do. So don't trust the online calculators because you might think, oh, I'm great, I can afford this place. And then you might find out that you can't afford that place. And the other one is to think about, in the UK, I don't know where you're watching from, but in the UK, you've got basically two types of things that you can buy. I don't know what to call this. I'm not an expert, as you can see. But you've got freeholds, which is basically for houses where you own the property and you own the land that the property is in. This is my understanding of what this is. And you've got leaseholds where you own the property, but you don't own the land. So that's mostly flats, which is what we bought. And for flats, you're gonna have two additional costs on top of your mortgage that you pay either monthly or yearly. Not even sure what we're doing, but you've got your ground rent, which is basically like a rent that you pay on the land that your property's in. And this can be quite small, but it could be bigger, but I think this is quite small generally. A small amount of money, but it's something you need to think about. And you will also have, with the leasehold, a lease. So when you buy your flat, they'll say, oh, the lease is 100 years, which means that you own the flat for 100 years. So if you've lived there for 5 years and you sell it, then the lease will be 95 years and so on and so forth. With that one, you'll also have service charge. And service charge basically covers maintenance, lifts, you know, keeping up the garden areas, whatever it is, if you've got concierge or things like that, anything that's maintenance for the building itself. If you're in a block of flats, that will be part of that. So if you live in a more modern flat with more amenities, then you're gonna have to pay more than if it's, you know, if you don't have lifts or you don't have concierge and things like that. So keep an eye on that in terms of what you can afford monthly, because you might think, oh great, my mortgage is quite low, but then on top of that you're gonna have to pay a lot of things. So just keep that one in mind. And also just something to think about really is if your flat or if the property that you're buying is in a chain or not. So if it's not in a chain, like for us, this, I just keep seeing that light there and I just don't like it. For us, this is a new build flat, so we didn't have a chain. We just came here, said we wanna move in this date, and we bought it, and that was it, we could move in. But if you're in a chain, it means that the person who's selling the flat that you're buying also has to buy a new flat or buy a new property, and those people might need to also buy a new one, and you know, it goes in a chain. It could be annoying for two reasons. One, if you are renting at the minute, then you might need to rent for longer and spend that more money on rent that you didn't initially thought, because those people might take longer to buy a new flat, and whatever it is, it might just make the process longer. And also time, if you think you're gonna move, let's say in August, then actually you might not be able to move in August and it might have to be October. So just keep that in mind if you are planning anything around that. It could take longer and it could cost you more money from, you know, other things like rent. When you buy a property, this is just a separate thing, but when you buy a property, make sure you look at everything. If it's got any marks, if it's got any cracks on the walls, things like that. Because when they do a survey on your property, they'll let you know all that stuff if it's not safe, and you know, the bank might not lend you the money and all that stuff, but sometimes it all looks fine and then all those papers get to you at the end of it, so you might not be able to read about it until you've actually basically bought it, so it's not really that useful. If you look at the outside of the building and you see a crack, then make sure you ask about it, make sure the flat and the property is not going to collapse, because that, you know, that's not great. Equally, if there's anything inside of the property that you're not happy with, if it's got humidities, if it's got mold, if it's got cracks inside on the paint, or whatever it is, make sure you let them know, because you might be able to bring the price down. If you're gonna have to fix something that's gonna cost you £5,000, then you might be able to bring the cost or the price of the property down £5,000, because you're gonna have to spend that money afterwards anyway. So anything that you see on it, make sure that you let them know. If it's a new build, you might not really have anything to say about it, but especially for older properties, make sure you look at everything. And every single thing that doesn't look right and things that just look like you're gonna have to put work and money on, then just make sure that you say that straight away. If it's something very serious, you might have to go and look for something else, which actually happened to us. We saw one property that had cracks, and it wasn't the paint, but it was everywhere, and we asked about it and they never got back to us, so we were like, okay, a bit weird, so we're just gonna go somewhere else. Also, if you're trying to buy a place, especially in London, everything is so expensive, it's just ridiculous. If you feel like you probably have an area that you know you want to live in, I want to live here, and then you look at that area. But if you're struggling with finding something for your budget, my recommendation is to extend that area that you're actually looking at. For us, we are now living somewhere that's different from the area that we lived in initially in my old flat, which you can actually see a tour of somewhere here in my Spanish channel, but I'll link it somewhere. We're living somewhere different, and we didn't really think about this area initially, but as we went on in the process and we saw that we were struggling with our budget, we looked elsewhere and we found this place and we love it now. So it might not be what you initially think you want, but it might end up working for you. Piece of advice, just extend your area even if it's not what you think you want. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is Help to Buy. And here, please be careful with Help to Buy. It's a scheme that will lend you money from the government to help you buy your first property and help you get on the ladder, whatever they call it, you know, the property ladder, whatever that is. I call it Help to Sell, not Help to Buy, because we did a few calculations, we did a bit of math when we were first thinking about our budget, and you can buy things that are a lot more expensive if you use Help to Buy, but you need to be very careful, and if you're gonna do it, please talk to a financial advisor about it, because what we found is that if we bought a flat, let's say we were buying one, with Help to Buy, if we didn't sell that flat within 5 years, our monthly interest cost was just going crazy and crazy every year, just to the point that we would not be able to afford it. So if for whatever reason the market crashes, whatever happens, you can't sell your flat in those 5 years, or you're gonna sell in the 5th year, but in the 4th it just everything goes wrong, you're stuck with that property for whatever reason, and you're not able to afford it monthly, and that's gonna be a big problem. You're gonna struggle, they might take your property, they might, you know, you don't wanna be in that situation. So if you have heard about Help to Buy, you were thinking about it, please really look at it, ask someone about it, because it might work for you, but it might not at the same time, and just think about the long term of it. So initially everything looks great, they give you money, you don't have to pay it back in a while, and you're like, cool, I can afford this place, this is amazing. Think about the long term of it and how that's gonna work, because even if your salary increases, what we found is that that interest, that monthly interest, it was just too much. It went from like £100 a month to like £600 a month in a couple of years, and we're like, no, that's not something we can afford. So we ended up not using Help to Buy because it just wouldn't work for us, but I know people do it. So again, if you're considering it, just ask someone about it, someone who knows about this, not me. But yeah, that's gonna be everything for the video today. Let me know if you guys liked it or not. Let me know if you want other videos about buying flats, the flat that we bought and things like that, because I can do those videos. If you have any questions about whatever I talked about in this video, let me know in the comments and I can get back to you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the video if you liked it, and I will see you guys later with another video. Bye!